milestones, such as interviewing Mother Teresa, covering a papal visit in both New Orleans and St. Louis, and reporting on Acadian culture from events all over Canada. She has interviewed many in entertainment, including Ella Fitzgerald, dance legend Rudolph Nureyev, and the Crusaders, which is probably the most thrilling thing for her, as she is a smooth jazz enthusiast. She's received several community awards over the years for Outstanding Young Businesswomen in the Media Award from the Acadiana Arts Council. In addition to being an accomplished communication professional, she has served on an esteemed pillar in this community. She has been affiliated with several Lafayette area arts groups, has served on the first board of Hospice of Acadiana, and served on several other boards and civic organizations. Our friends here at the Alumni Center are very proud to announce that she has served as the Secretary of the Alumni Association for the University of Southwestern Louisiana. In June 2002, she began working at KVHP Fox 29 in Lake Charles, first as the 5 p.m. anchor, then as the news show host and producer. She remained there until June of 2006, and then began a part-time job with the Calcasieu Public Library System in the reference department. This was a natural move because she's an avid reader who reads as many as 4 books a week. I can't read 4 books a year. While working at the library, she received a call from KPLC News in Lake Charles. She answered that call naturally and returned to the newsroom, where she currently holds the titles and positions of managing editor and noon anchor. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a big, resounding round of applause to a woman who, if it had not been for her, I may not be an anchor at KTC, Miss Agnes Derwang.
I do recall that icy being real good. It was a regular thing, and I got people to go and get it across the street because I was old before my time. I got them to go and get it. I'm glad that Marcel remembers that. All right. Well, I'm very proud to be here as the alumna of the year. I never thought I would actually be in this position. I grew up a very introverted child. I know it's hard to believe, but I didn't like to talk a whole lot. But I got over it. And I must credit the first teacher that really meant a lot to me. Her name was Sister Bartholomew Duraway, otherwise known as Sister B, and yes, later on we found out we were indeed related. She was my English teacher in my senior year at Mount Carmel, and she made us write really significant papers. I was terrified of this teacher because she got a cassette recorder, and when you would do a particular theme paper, maybe it was the importance of political cartoons, we would write it. She would go onto the cassette and say, "This is a very good paper. On paragraph 2, line 3, you have a comma out of place. You get a B." And it would be maddening because she wouldn't find anything wrong with my papers. So it kept on through the whole semester until at the end, I did a paper on the importance of the soliloquies in Hamlet. This is in high school. And she got on the cassette and she said, "Aggie, I know you've been very aggravated with me. All year long, you're thinking you're doing really well, and I'm giving you B's. Well, I knew you had this paper inside of you. This is what I expect from you. This is going to get you an A in my class for this paper and for the semester." That was incredible. I did get my A, and then I went on to come here to USL at the time. I used that same paper in my class in Shakespeare. I tweaked it a little bit, and it still got me an A in Shakespeare here at USL. So that was the greatest moment there, that I kept that A going. But how did I get into TV? Well, it all began with a phone call. I had a friend who was kind of like a little psychic, and she says, you know, your life is going to be changed by a man who has the voice of God, salt and pepper hair, and blue eyes. I did not know anybody by that, description. I was working at the Diocese of Lafayette, working in the paper, the Catholic newspaper, and I also did a show they wanted to have called Reel to Reel, which was about the services being offered by the diocese. I was supposed to be only the producer. I said, okay, I can do that, but they never got a host. I ended up hosting, they said, just do the pilot. So I did the pilot. Then they never got anybody, and I ended up doing the show. It aired on KATC, and that is where a man by the name of Dennis Smith saw me. And I get a call at the diocese one day, and one of my coworkers took the call and said, hey Agnes, do you have a call? Sounds like God. And I went, sounds like God? Yeah, he wants to talk to you. And this was Dennis Smith. He says, I have an opening in the morning. I would like you to come in and talk to me about becoming a morning anchor, just doing the little 5-minute updates. I said, I've never done live TV. I can't do that. And he says, just come talk to me. So I went in and we talked, and he said, you know why I want to hire you? You have a mellifluous voice. I want to hire you just for that voice. And I went, mellifluous? He says, look it up. It meant honey sounding. So I said, well, I'll do it if I live past the week and I can be on live TV and not pass out. I guess I'll keep the job. So I did keep that job, but I was very, very scared because I could write because I have a degree in English and journalism, but I had not really taken that much broadcasting. So he said, you can learn the broadcasting. I know you can learn that. And what I did was I stayed late every day. Every night I'd be there. I had to sign a paper saying, you don't have to pay me for this, I'm just learning. And he helped me because I talked really fast. So he would bring me in every day and he'd listen to my tapes and he'd say, use the little dot things, that drives teachers wild, where you're not using complete sentences. Well, I did that to slow myself down, and that's how I started. And I said, if I can make this, I'm just going to do well at this. I'm going to make myself do it. And so I did. And Dennis Smith hired me, and that was the best day of my life. And as I thought about it, I went, he does have the sound of God. He's a very good looking man with salt and pepper hair and the bluest eyes I'd ever seen. And to tell you how this all wraps up, when I started working at Raycom Television in KPLC, Dennis Smith, my first news director, worked within the same system. And when I started working at Channel 7, he called me and he said, I knew you could do it. 40 years later almost, and you're still doing it. I know how to pick them. I went, I guess you do, Mr. Smith. So anyway, that's how I started in television. And then I had to learn everything from cameras to editing to dragging around the biggest equipment that'll knock your shoulders out of socket. You little young people, you got it easy. Little bitty cameras, little bitty everything. You can go live in a minute. Well, to go live was a big, big production when I was coming up. It was like the Wild, Wild West. Now you don't have to worry about doing a live shot in the rain because it might lightning. Well, first live shot I ever did was in the middle of a major storm at a school bus accident and lightning all around me. You didn't just say, oh, I'm not going to do it. It's too scary. You best do it. Or you can go, as Dennis Smith used to say, here are the doors. There's one here, there's one there. Take your choice. We don't work at a bank. So, there you go. Now, the really funny thing about the fact that I actually have a career in television, when I came here to USL at the time, I was in the English and journalism classes, but I didn't really take a whole lot of broadcasting except a couple of survey of broadcasting. I worked at KRBS, And there was a teacher by the name of Bernard Crocker. I don't know how many people still remember Mr. Crocker. He told me in one of his classes, he says, I think you need to change your major. You actually need to be in broadcasting. I told him, oh no, I'm too nervous. I don't want to do that. And then a couple of years after I'd been working at KATC, I saw him again. He just shook his hand and he goes, I told you. So I've had a couple of men telling me, I told you. And they were right. So I have to give them that, you know. So it was something that really, he changed my life by even telling me that. Well, through the years, I've covered everything, every kind of story. I was a beat reporter. I covered 3 parishes, Iberia, St. Mary, St. Martin, farming, religion, culture, the arts. And we had 5 ideas a day. And sometimes we did packages, a couple of packages a day on 2 different topics. And our microphones always. But it's a good thing I talk pretty loud so I can actually do a lot with what I'm given. Also, the first story I ever did was on kidney dialysis. I knew nothing about it, but I had to go and cover it. Well, the assignment editor said, go out and do this story. I came back, 4 o'clock, I let him read my script. He goes, that's not what I sent you out to do, and he tore it up right then. Threw it in the trash. Yep, threw it in the trash. Then he told me, you have 1 hour before the newscast. Make it right. So I had to go in and redo the package, have it ready for 5 o'clock, because you did not miss slot. You just didn't. Very important lesson is that the clock is not your friend. So I learned that early on. Also, through the years, I got to do many live on-location shows. It's very easy now because we have live view backpacks. You can do it in a minute. Back then, you had to get the truck out there, put the mast up, try to see if you get a signal, azimuth this, azimuth that, try to figure out whether you can see yourself. Many times I did live shows where I couldn't even hear the anchors talking back to me. It was like doing it blind. I did it blind many times. I was in Canada doing a live show. I thought I was supposed to be hearing my anchors. No, I was hearing the anchors in Canada speaking French in my ear while I talked. Very much distraction. So, I've produced shows, I've hosted shows, I've booked shows. I've done everything in this business, and things go wrong, you have to keep going, which is what this whole business is all about. Because the best laid plans are gonna go out the window, and you still have to have product. So that kept me going. I did Good Morning Acadiana for more than a decade. I was the only one there in the morning. I couldn't call in sick. I had to be there, no matter what. You just don't call somebody at 1 o'clock and say, I can't make it. Can you go in and do the show? It did not work that way. So I know how to meet deadlines. Deadlines were the most important thing that I had to deal with, and I just made sure I did it. I made sure I was able to do a lot of different stories. And maybe I might get this to work eventually. But some of the highlights of my career, I got to interview, like what you said, Mother Teresa. No one was interviewing Mother Teresa. I had to use all my contacts with the diocese, and then it was like it was meant to be because I found her at St. Agnes's Mission in Baton Rouge. Her name really was Agnes, so it was like I was meant to actually interview this woman. She touched my hand, and it was like electricity going through me. It was one of those things that I will never forget. And one of the other interviews, you talked about Ella Fitzgerald. You had to know my dad. My dad was like the age of grandparents. He grew up in the time of big bands, jazz, baseball, and all that. And when I interviewed Ella Fitzgerald, he was, can I touch the hand that touched Ella? He didn't want to wash his hand after that. I met and interviewed Lero DeRocha from the Los Angeles Dodgers, another of his things, and he was looking through my job. So that's how a lot of things came about. Because of my dad's love of adventure, he passed that on to me, and I've tried to bring that to my stories. And in fact, I did a story on my dad. I called it the Avery Island Geezer Brigade. They were very old, and they were still working full-time jobs. And when I did the story, I tried calling him that night about it, and he said, finally, when I was able to get through to him, he said, "Why are you bugging me? My public is calling me. So get off the phone so I can receive my public." I went, okay. I turned you into a monster, I guess. He was very proud of everything that I did, because he was a man that never even finished high school. And the fact that I was able to finish high school, go to college, get a career, and he was able to see me on TV, that really made his life. So I have to say that I'm glad that he was still alive when I started doing this, because it made all those times when he was helping me with flashcards and everything else in my growing up time, that he was there and was able to take part in my life. So that was really something good. And his story is the type of story I like to do, where I bring the personal experience into a story. The story shouldn't be about things or whatever. It should always be about a person that is affected by something. And there is a way to use the video, the mood, everything to make that story come alive. And it is something that I always strive to do, to make the stories personal. And that's something I don't see a lot of anymore, because we have so many outlets that we have to feed. We have reporters doing several stories at once. But every now and then, I still get to see a story that means a lot to the people that they're doing it for, and of being a service to the community. I've been doing this for 40 years, and I'm now working with young reporters who basically go to school and don't take enough English, writing, things like that, because they sit in front of their computers lost. They don't know how to make a story come alive. They have a degree, but they don't have a lot of the skills that they need to make it. I would also advise young students to be able to take a lot of history, so that you can have some context as to what's happening in the world today. Because how can you report on religious conflicts, wars, things of upheaval in your community, if you don't know why people are acting the way they're acting? It's because of something that's gone before. So I would advise young reporters to be able to do a little digging into history and see how that will bring you much further in your career. I have to say that my dad worked all of his life, and I never thought that I would be this age still working. Not because I have to, but because I want to. I still love going to work. I still love meeting these young people and seeing some of them really succeed. And the fact that this business is constantly changing. We have all this social media now. All of our reporters right now have digital footprints. They have to report the story for on air, online, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, everything. And it's more than just that one story you thought you were going to do that day. They have all the best equipment. They can do all of this and even go live by themselves out in the world. But they need to have the basic skills to make all of that work. And so I would advise you to take many writing classes, history, even maybe a little bit of sociology, psychology. I use it every day. To get people to get the most out of what they're doing. I think it's something that would help. I spend my days now anchoring the noon show at KPLC. I also do the assignments desk. I answer a lot of evil phone calls. And as I've gotten older, I don't really care what they say anymore. I usually say, what is it that you expect me to do about that? Oh, you don't know? All right, bye. Because I don't really have all that much patience anymore. And the people are getting crazy. I'm either being paid by George Soros or I'm related to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Everything is a consequence. So I figure if we're hated by both sides, I must be doing something right. So I still have a lot of fun despite those phone calls. I've been threatened with my life if I don't do a story. I've been threatened that they're going to be waiting for me outside the door. They're going to come in and take me out. One time they called me from the jail and they said, if you don't do this story, I'm going to kill you. And I'd go, come on. I'm tired. Let's get it on. So anyway, I just want to tell folks that things are constantly changing in the world of broadcasting, and you just have to go with the punches. When I first started, we were on typewriters, teletype machines, and if you saw the movie Broadcast News, you know what life was like. You were somewhere watching a tape being edited, going, Bobby, 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 get me that tape. Now, everything is, digital. So it's a lot easier, but you still have to tell a story. And that story needs to be concise, compelling, and you have to make people care. And I think that is what I would mostly want to impart to you. It's not just putting a bunch of facts together. It's how you present it, how you make people understand, and how you make them think for themselves. You don't make, the opinion. We just give it. And so I may be a little older than all the little whippersnappers like Gabriel over there who works at our station, but I'm still pretty good. And I hope to live for as long as I can with a microphone that actually works and make me crazy. So, in closing, I want to thank you all for giving me this honor. It really means a lot to a little girl from New Iberia who didn't want to talk, who was very quiet, and never thought she could speak her mind. But I've had a lot of time to share a lot of stories that mean a lot to me. And I hope to continue doing that, either myself or helping young people tell their stories as well. Thank you all, and have a great evening. And be great journalists.
Before we depart for the evening, please welcome President of the UL Lafayette Communication Association, Ms. Sarah Borg.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I try and stand as far away so it doesn't cut out. When I saw the program tonight and I realized I was going behind Agnes, I thought, thank God there's a bar. Because how do you follow that legend in our industry? So I'm here today as the president of the UL Alumni Association. And first and foremost, I would like to congratulate you and welcome you. I was here as a student several years ago. I'm not going to give away my age. If you card me, I'll still be happy. But I want to say it's amazing to see the talent that our young people have, and it's just great to see that our department has grown so much since I was here. I still see some of my fellow professors in the room, so I'm happy that I'm not being graded on this assignment. I would like to thank the Department of Communications for hosting this event, and Karen Winters for being fabulous and helping, and especially the UL alumni staff. In particular, we have Tucker Sappington and John Clark Arsenault that really worked behind the scenes and helped put this together. So. On behalf of alumni, I find that our university is so unique because when you graduate and receive your diploma that you've worked so hard to see, I consider every graduate a family member. And whether you stay local in Acadiana or you move to LA or New York or Houston, we have alumni, 100,000 of us that have come before you that are all over the country and the world that you can lean and reach out to. And I think that that's pretty awesome. Specifically with communications, I hope that we can communicate with one another. It's kind of our degree. But we do have a chapter for you. Whether you stay local and become the fabulous Miss Agnes Joanne, or if you become the next David Begno, just know that the university is here to help you and in any way you can. So with that being said, I want to